Hey, this is Steven from TechMaker.tv. I've received a number of requests regarding the previous Scraping the Web with Ruby series that I did, and it's been a while since I recorded that, and so I've decided that I'm going to go ahead and just do a full reboot of that and go into quite a bit more depth. So this will be part one of that new series. I think there will be at least 5 parts, could be a few more than that depending on which direction I decide to go. Before we get started, I just want to mention that down in the description there's links to a few very helpful resources that I actually use when I'm learning. If you want to check those out, that would support the show and I'd really appreciate it. To get started, open up your terminal. Yours may look different than mine. I've customized mine quite a bit. Once you do that, just check if you have Ruby installed by running ruby-v. And if you're on something other than Mac, it won't be called terminal, it'll be command prompt of some kind. In this episode, we're pretty much going to stay inside the interactive Ruby console, which you can open up by running IRB, and then you should see something like that. The first thing that we're going to do in here is require a library called OpenURI. This library will let us interact with web pages. So now we can do something like open, and then you just give it a URL. Let's just do something random like newyorktimes.com. And you can see that this gives us back this temp file. So if we want to actually read the contents of this, what we need to do is say we need to store what we just got back in a variable, which we can do with something like doc equals underscore. The underscore just will grab whatever the last thing returned was. So now we have our temp file stored in doc. Now we can say something like HTML equals doc.read. So if you scroll up, you'll see this is actually quite a massive amount of code that came back. Before we go on, I just want to point out, if you're doing this, following along with this episode sometime in the future, which I guess you will definitely be doing because all time is sometime in the future, but far enough in the future, it's highly likely that the actual code that comes back from anything that we do in this series will be different. So what I actually want to show you here is not how to follow a step-by-step instructions, but more a process you can do to kind of make discoveries on your own. The other thing is, I think it's important to say that a lot of websites now employ strategies to sort of deter or prevent people from doing web scraping. You can go find lawsuits from even Craigslist against real estate websites that had scraped their listings. So I'm just going to go ahead and state that if you're going to do something that's questionable legally, that's on you. And if you want to take my advice, I would say whatever you're doing, use it for your own research, for your own learning or whatever. But before you do anything, make sure that it's legally sound. So we just pulled back all of the code behind this web page. And I'm actually just going to inspect this element. And we'll look and kind of get a sense for where that thing is. So I'm actually going to, let's see, if I click this, edit as HTML, I'm going to get this whole A tag, presumably. So I'm just going to scan this document that we pulled back. So we have it stored in content. No, we don't. What do I call it? HTML. Yeah, HTML. Actually, let me close this because that's like impossible to read. Okay, so if we do html.index and then we pass in that A tag we just copied as a string, which that's not going to work because they have double quotes there, so I need mine to be a single quote. Okay. Try that again. Okay, index, paste that in, and then enter. Okay, so it comes back as nil. And I've got to tell you, that's not totally surprising. If I pull this back up, you can see here we have this class ghost. I don't know what that means. I'm just guessing, but I'm going to guess that they have some fancy JavaScript that's sort of rendering all this after the request to keep you from actually scraping. So that's exactly what I was just saying. So let me find a different website that we can do this against, and we'll take a look. You know, actually, that headline was about Pope Francis. So let me just do a quick scan here again for the word Pope and see what we come up with. Don't want to give up so easily. Okay, so it does actually find that. So let's do HTML. So this is kind of how this goes for me. I'm always just kind of exploring around. So the word Pope was found at 220. So I'm going to do 220 to like 2,220. So let's do just 2,400. So I grab like a little bit of text and see what comes back. Okay, so that's coming back. That's clearly not the actual headline. So let me go find the actual headline again and see if I can find that. Okay, so I'm just going to close the developer tools for now and see if I can like just, I can type that, I guess. Pope Francis calls for, and we'll just stop right there. Okay, so we'll do html.index Pope Francis calls for. Okay, so we actually do find that way later. This web page is kind of huge, in my opinion. So we'll do HTML, and then we'll do that, and then we'll do, so we want to do a range, and then I'm just going to paste that in, and then do plus 200, because I don't want to sit here and embarrass myself with you guys watching me do math. Okay, so we have this Pope Francis calls for all-out battle to fight Scourge. Okay. So let's go look at exactly where that is in the structure. Okay, so I'm going to inspect this thing again, see if we can locate this a little bit better than last time. So yeah, so this is what's screwy here, is when I found that, it actually, you can see there's something weird going on here. Because I believe if we go back to the terminal and look, we'll see that this thing was a unordered list, and here it's an H2, and this is in a span, and this is that ghost class we were talking about. So I think this is probably just, for my taste, way too complicated to try to parse out. If I was building like a news headline aggregator or something, I might get patient and like try to dig in and figure all this out, but not for our purposes. You know, now that I'm looking at it, there's a UL here. So perhaps what we're actually looking at, we're starting at this P for Pope Francis. So let me actually go backwards in the index and see like what are like the 200 characters before and the 200 after, and kind of see if this is actually the chunk that we're concerning ourselves with. Okay, so let's do, so we have the index here. I'm actually going to copy this. So we'll set this as index equals that. And then we're going to do index minus 200. And then a range of index plus 200. Okay, let's do that one more time, but let's go 400 back. Basically, I'm trying to see if I can see that A tag that we were not finding earlier somehow. Top stories. So we have A. Okay, so there's our A tag. And then we have, so it looks like, what it looks to me, so if I copy this, oh, that's not what I want to do. If I copy this, and you just grab that, okay, so I'm just going to paste that on the end of this and see if that opens up that article. Yeah, so I think what's happening is they have some JavaScript or something is happening where we didn't find that because they only have the relative path, and when the page renders, it puts the full path in there. So what I want to do is scan this text to see if I can find any other headlines. So the first thing is, I'm just going to notice that we have our headline here. Highlighting is kind of weird. This is basically our headline. So what would be interesting to know is if there are any other cases of this. So I'm just going to do html.scan for that and see what we come back with. Okay, so we didn't find any, so perhaps the escape characters need to be removed here. Cool, so I'm going to guess that those are each headlines. And in that case, if we do that underscore.count, so that's saying there's 4 headlines, so maybe that's not everything. Maybe that's the left and right side rails. Not 100% sure, but let's see if we can figure out what those are. Okay, so to start, let's grab this string and let's store that as our identifier, for lack of a better word at the moment. Okay, so now we can do html.scan identifier. We find those. So what I want to do is I want to find the indexes of each of these. So as we were looking for, like if I were to just do like html.index identifier, it's going to give me back the first occurrence of that, which should be our Pope thing, if I remember correctly. So if I just do html dot see if that even works. Like that, yeah. So that's our Pope Francis thing. So what we want to do is find the index for all of them so we can print out each one. And one way we can do that is we can say, let's just get indexes. So we'll create an array of indexes. So we'll say equals 0 to html.length. So basically what this is doing is it's creating an array or a range of numbers, that is from the starting point all the way up to the end of our HTML document. Then we'll iterate through all of them with find all, and that's a character. I'm just going to say char. So it's iterating through each character when we call find all. So it goes from every character in the list. And then what we're going to do is say HTML. This is going to be a little tricky. So we'll say the particular character we're looking at up to, let's see, how can I do this? Identifier length, and then we'll just say equals identifier. See if that works. That may or may not work. I feel like I missed something somewhere, or it's just taking a long time. Okay, so that did in fact work, but it took forever. And let's look at, how long is that? So 700,000 characters, and we iterated through every single character and then did a comparison. So of course that's going to be slow. So we need to find a faster way to do that. So one thing we might try is we could say HTML, and then let me just grab this first one, and then we'll say to the end HTML.length, and then we'll check the index of our identifier, and we'll see if we get, if we do, let me try like that, undefined method for hold on. Okay. 0. Okay, so I need to do, okay, so it's telling me that the very first thing it looks at is that. So if I do, just bump that up by 1, and we get 1791. Oh, crap. So what was my, I'm gonna have to scroll forever. Okay, I need to run this crazy long running thing again just to get my, oh, I already set it in indexes, so I don't need to do that. I can just say indexes. Indexes is what I'm looking for. So if you notice, let's say indexes 1 minus indexes 0. So we had 1792, and here I have 1791. So what this is telling us is that we can actually just, instead of scanning every single character, which is a gigantic performance problem, what we should do is just iterate through, like find the first index, then bump up by 1, then find the next index, then bump up by 1, and so on and so forth until we hit a nil. So let's do that. So I've been trying a few different things to make this work, and I'm just going to kind of step through it and we'll work it out. So basically what we want to do is recreate this indexes array without having to iterate through every character. So the first thing we want to do, let's just do this line by line, and then we'll try to wrap it up into some kind of function. So we'll say html.index of identifier. Okay, that gives us the first element. Okay, so then we'll say HTML, and we'll say index of underscore, hold on, we'll say index, so actually it needs to be HTML, and then we just want to select the bit of text after that first identifier, so we'll say underscore +1 dot dot -1. So that gets us to the end of the string basically, and I'm going to put this in parentheses, and then we'll say dot index identifier. So that gives us 1791. So if I do 1791 plus this plus 1, we get our second one. So then we should be able to do the same bit again. Don't want to copy everything. So 2020. So now if I do 16.0 whatever plus underscore plus 1, that should give me the third result. Okay, so we need to basically wrap up this into some kind of function. One other important point is, let's check what happens if I do html.index and then like some kind of just crazy text that's probably not in there. So I get nil. So let's try this. So let's do, oh boy, okay, so let's do something like found indexes equals array. Okay, let's do current index, and we'll set it at 0 for now. Okay, so let's do while current index is not equal nil. Okay, then we need to loop through. So we'll say, well, actually, so our current index is 0, so we can say current index equals HTML, and then we'll pass in current index +1 dot dot -1 dot index identifier. Okay, so let's think about what that's going to give us. So the first time that runs, it's going to find, so it's going to be 0 plus 1 to minus 1. So that's kind of weird because, I mean, that may work in our case, but it's actually starting from the first character. So if, in fact, the very first thing is what we were looking for and it started at 0, we wouldn't find it. So that could be a problem. But in our case, it's not, so I'm just not going to worry about it for the moment. Okay, so it's going to say 1 to minus 1. So it's going to find our, actually, it's probably going to find 158403 since we're starting from the first character. Let's just say that's fine for the moment. Okay, so what does that find? So it's going to find 158403. Then the next time around, it's going to find 1791. So we always need to add 1. So we're going to say if current index does not equal nil, we're going to say current index equals current index plus 1 because that's needed all the time. Then we're going to say if found indexes dot any. So it's going to check if we've already found anything. We're going to say current index equals found indexes dot last plus current index. So far we've added 1, and then we're checking if we found any previous ones, and if we have, we're adding it. Okay, so then we end that if, and then we're going to add the current index to indexes. So found indexes, add current index. Then we're going to end the last one, and then we'll end the very first one. Okay, so that closed out pretty fast. Let's check what we found, if we found anything. Okay, so let's check our indexes. So it's exactly the same, and it's dramatically more performant. So what I want to do now is actually see, let's take a look at some of the text around here. So let's just do HTML, this, and then we'll get a range of that plus 300, maybe 200, and just see what the text is. Okay, so it starts off H2 da 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 enigmatic figure at the heart of blah 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 blah. And then we end with this closing H2 tag. So let me see about, let's do this. Let's do a parenthesis here, and we'll add to it identifier.length. So you can see here, this is our identifier, right? This is our identifier. Okay, so if we add the length to the starting point, we're starting really right before this span tag. Okay, and then if we add, let's just do that and see what that gives us. Okay, so we start with a span tag, and then we end with this H2 really. So what we would like to get is span and then closing span. In actual fact, I'm going to add 6 because I don't want to span either. Okay, so now I'm getting the headline. So that's the identifier plus the span. Okay, so if we did this from the beginning, maybe we would include the span tag in the identifier, but I'm not going to go back through all of that. So what I would like to do is just find a way to just, from each of our indexes, just want to capture this bit, and those are our headlines. Okay, so let me just cycle up, And so we've got this string coming out, right? So what we can do here is say like, first of all, I'm gonna just put -1 so that we go all the way out to the end of the entire HTML doc. And I'm just gonna say index of span, like that. And it's telling me it's 54. So what I could do is say like, this is going to be wildly complicated looking. Let's see here, how can I do this? So, I mean, technically, if I keep doing that. Okay, so if I just grab this and I paste it there and I just do .54, what does that give me? Not a thing. What am I trying to do? If I do, oh, I'm going to need this whole bit and then add 54 here. Okay, so -1. So now I've got my my headline. Okay, so let's break this apart. So what we'll do is we'll say index equals this, right? Then we'll say what should I call this? So we'll say headline start equals index plus identifier dot length plus 6 for our span, right? Then we'll say headline end equals how do we do that? So we need to get the index, where was that? So it's going to be the HTML with headline start to the end of the document dot index span. And then we actually want to get rid of like the first character here. So when we put just index, it's actually including that. So I want to like just kill it with -1. Okay, so 53, right? So we have our index, we have headline start, we have headline end. So let's do HTML, and we'll say headline start dot dot headline start plus headline end. Boom, there's our headline. Okay, so we've made some assumptions which may turn out to be wrong here. For example, we've assumed that every headline has a span tag in it, but I'm just going to guess that maybe that's true, and we're going to try to get an array of all of our headlines. So I'm going to say headlines equals found indexes dot map do index. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll cycle back up. I called that index on purpose, so we're not going to set the index because we're pulling the index out of found indexes. So we want to do headline start equals index identifier length 6. Headline end is that. And then we just want to return this, right? HTML headline start, headline end. So I don't have to set it equal to anything. I just hit enter here and hit end. And there we go. So headlines.each do headline. And we'll just puts headline. So we can see that here. So Pope Francis calls for all-out battle, enigmatic figure at the heart of Mueller, Pompeo, North Korea, and there we go. Perfect. So it does exactly what we want. Let's just headline. Let's do a little bit of spacing so we can actually read it. Okay, now I can see a little bit better. Just wanted to split that out so I could actually read it. Okay, cool. So if you've made it this far, you might be thinking to yourself like, holy crap, that's way too complicated and there has to be a better way. And you'd be right. There are some very powerful gems and tools that will do this for you to some extent. They're still complicated and you still have to learn how to use them. But we're going to go through some of those tools in the next couple of lessons, so this is a little more straightforward. But I wanted to start here because I think that understanding how to actually process the strings is sort of fundamental, and you're always going to need to be able to do that a little bit. One of the books I'm going to recommend in the description is called The Well-Grounded Rubyist. It's probably the best book out there for just understanding all of the core mechanics of Ruby. At any rate, I hope that you found this interesting, and that's pretty much it for this episode. In the next couple, we're going to be looking at some other websites, and we'll, like I said, exploring some other tools. Probably do a little bit of data analysis based on some stuff that we pull back. Nothing serious in this series. I'm going to do another series on data analysis soon. So anyway, stay tuned, and I look forward to chatting with you next time.